Okay, so today we're going to speak about two other characteristics that we have to have in order to effectively enjoin what's good and forbid what's evil. And number one is courage. It takes courage to stand up for what's right. It takes courage to speak out against what's wrong, especially when you know there'll be repercussions. And you also have to be generous. So let's take a look at this. As Muslims, when it comes to enjoining the good and forbidding the evil, we have to understand that human affairs will never be right unless there's courage and generosity. And Allah has explained to us in the Quran, guys, that anyone who turns his back on courage, in other words, anyone who fails to struggle in the way of Allah, that person will be replaced by others who will. And this is an answer to the brother. One of the brothers here asked me, Sister Laila, is it's haram for women to give dawah? First of all, I've never heard anything as ridiculous, because giving dawah is an obligation upon all Muslims. And then he asked me, he said, is there a need for you? Evidently it is. You sitting here listening to me, because I'm speaking what the brothers ain't. I don't have no fear saying what the men don't want to say or what they can't say because they don't have the knowledge. Don't you know that whenever you fail to do what Allah commands you to do, Allah will replace you with someone who will? Well, welcome to the real world. Welcome to 2024. Laila Nasheeba. I've been giving dawah since 1986 on this internet, and I'm still here. As one person came and said, wow, you still here? Yes. Yes. Somebody's got to do the job. You brothers have dropped the ball. And you women never did the job. Not in America. So Allah tells us that anyone who turns away from struggling in the way of Allah will be replaced by someone who will do it. And whoever turns away from helping others by spending their money in the way of Allah, they'll be replaced too. And here's the verse. Allah says in the interpretation of the meaning, "O you who believe, what is wrong with you that when you are called to come forward in the way of Allah, you become lazy and stuck to the earth? Do you prefer the life of this world over the hereafter? Verily, the provisions in this life are nothing compared to the hereafter. And if you don't come forward, Allah will punish you with a painful punishment, and He will replace you with another people, and you will not harm Allah in the least." Why did Allah send this verse down? This is because this is when Allah sent down the command for the Muslims to fight. This is when Allah said, war comes from me, not man. And I send war for several reasons. Allah said, I send war to cleanse the earth of corrupt people. I also send war so you can recognize who the true believers are from the unbelievers. And these men who didn't want to fight, Allah was saying to them, look at you. You claim to believe in me, but now that I'm telling you to get up and fight in my way, you don't want to do it. You're afraid. Well, I'm going to punish you in this world, and I'm going to replace you with a people that will fight in my name, fight in my way. So war comes from Allah. And when Allah sent down the command for the Muslims to fight the battle of Badr, that was the first battle. And that's when the first command was sent. A lot of the people didn't want to fight. They were afraid. And Allah had to let them know. Okay? So it takes courage. It takes courage to struggle in the way of Allah. It takes courage to spend for Him, to do for Him. Okay? And it was courage and generosity that Allah was referring to when he said those who came before. Excuse me, I hit the wrong PowerPoint. He said, they are not, in the interpretation of meaning, they are not the same. Those of you who spend in the way of Allah and fought and struggled before the victory, these people will have a greater reward than those who came after. Now, this was sent down after the conquest of Mecca. And Mukhtar, this is from the surah that Mukhtar asked you guys to read. Okay, and this is when Allah sent down the command, because the Quraysh had converted to Islam. And that's when the word had come that the Romans were gathering against the Muslims. And so when the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam called the people to come and fight, called the Quraysh to come forward, some of the original companions were kind of jealous. They said, wait a minute, you know, we couldn't offer money and camels and horses and armory like they have. And so Allah sent this verse down saying that they're not the same as you. That those of you who fought in the way of Allah, those of you who fought the battle of Badr when we had nothing, those of you who fought the battle of Uhud when we had nothing, those of you who fought the battle of the ditch when we had nothing, you will get a greater reward than these who have the money. Okay? And also, just to let you guys know, a lot of those who did come forward to fight of the Quraysh were hypocrites too. Many of them had embraced Islam not out of sincerity, like the original companions had, but they had embraced it because, you know, out of fear of the Prophet Muhammad, because he was now the ruler. Okay? So courage. Those companions who fought the battle of Badr and Uhud, they had courage that many of these new converts didn't have, because they went out to battle knowing that they were outnumbered 10-1. They went to battle and fought knowing that the chances of them being killed were 9 out of 10. Okay? Courage is everything. Allah loves courage. And also, Allah tells us that when it comes to fighting in his way, it's not just physically, but we can fight in his way in other ways too, speaking out against the evil, giving donations. For example, this website right now, subhanallah, one of the sisters was asking me, Sister Laila, you seem so stressed out. I'm always stressed out about this website. And I'm particularly stressed out right now because we are $311 in the hole because we survive off of donations. This website is an online Islamic university. We are a non-profit organization, but we are not affiliated with any mosque. I am not a part of Sheikh Kareem Abu Zayd's mosque. I am not a part of Jamali's mosque. I am not a part of Sheikh Atli's mosque. We are a separate entity, Sunnah followers. We are a non-profit Islamic school, and we survive off of donations. And being that we are a website, I'm not asking for no $10 million because we can't get that type of money and we don't need that type of money. All I'm asking for is $2,000 a month. No more than $50,000 a year. That's all we can even collect as a website. $50,000 is all we can collect in 1 year. And by the way, we've never had $50,000 in a year at this website. We lucky to get 20. Okay. You know, so it's a struggle to come here every day and give dawah. Giving dawah. This is jihad. This is struggling in the way of Allah, trying to teach the people the truth, trying to call the people back to Islam in its truthfulness with the understanding of those companions, that's a struggle. That's fighting in the way of Allah. And that's why a website like mine falls in the category of zakat, because this is fi sabilillah. It's one of the greatest struggles of all to call the people back to the Quran and the Sunnah with the understanding of the companions. That takes courage. Listen to what Allah says in the interpretation, the meaning. How many small groups have overcome large groups with the permission of Allah? And it's all because they had patience too. Allah is with those who have patience. It takes patience to do what's right. It takes patience to strive in the way of Allah. So that's why I say, not only does it take knowledge and compassion and courage, but you have to have patience too. Also, Allah says in the interpretation, the meaning, oh, you who believe, whenever you meet an opposing army, be patient and remember Allah so that you can be successful, and obey Allah and His Prophet, and don't disagree so that you will cause your own defeat and lose your favorable hand. Be patient because Allah is with those who have patience. Look at this verse here. The war in Gaza. Did this come from the Zionists? No, we brought it on ourselves. It came from Allah. We don't remember Allah much. We got Muslims going around blaming Allah, asking why would Allah allow children to die? Why would Allah allow people to be killed? Why would Allah do this? Then you got other Muslims saying, well, since Allah ain't doing nothing, let's boycott making Hajj. Let's boycott going to Saudi Arabia. Let's boycott fasting Ramadan. Let's boycott doing any of our obligations. I'm not going to wear the hijab anymore. We're going to boycott. Now do y'all see why this war ain't going nowhere? We have to obey Allah. Whenever we disobey Allah and disobey the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, whenever we lack patience to handle hardships, then we cause our own defeat. We cause our own defeat. And Allah is not with us. Allah is only with those who have patience. So all that protesting, all that boycotting, it's not going to help any of you Muslims. If anything, you're just digging a deeper grave for yourselves and for the rest of us. You're just, causing Allah, to send the war, which He's going to do anyway, to all of us, every part of this earth. World War III, the war against stupid Muslims. Okay? So, what is courage? This is a problem I found out as a daya. A lot of English-speaking Americans don't understand the meaning of simple words like courage. Courage does not mean that I'm strong in my body. A person can be physically strong, but weak. Instead, courage is the strength of the heart. How strong are you in your heart? And how patient you are. The patient man, that's the man of courage. Okay? Not the man who's physically strong. And the only type of courage that Allah praises is courage based on knowledge and understanding of this religion. For those of us who practice our religion, even though we're faced with hardships, this is the courage that Allah praises. Even though Muslims are dying all over the world, we're still patient with the qadr of Allah, and we're checking ourselves to see what we need to change within ourselves to take away Allah's anger. That's the type of courage that Allah praises. He doesn't praise people with signs walking up and down the street like kafirs, protesting and boycotting his Qadr. He don't like that. That's not courage. So the strong man in Islam is defined as the one that can control his emotions, not the man that can wield a sword. Does everybody understand that? If you can control yourself and not transgress the limits of Allah, not ask why Allah is doing what he's doing, but instead look at yourself and ask, how can I change myself? And in turn, cause Allah to change the condition, because Allah says he will never, ever change the condition of a people until they change the condition within themselves. So Allah will never stop the war that's happening in the Muslim lands until the Muslims change the condition of themselves. That's the strong man who's willing to take the courage to change himself. Everybody understand that? And again, it takes patience. And there's two types of patience. The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said patience is of two types. The patience that's needed when you are angry, and the patience that's needed when Allah sends a hardship to you. Most of us cannot control our anger. That's why we got all these Muslims tearing up Starbucks, even though Starbucks has nothing to do with the war in Israel. Starbucks ain't no supporter of anything. I'm here to tell y'all, don't get it twisted. American companies, private companies, don't have the power, even if they wanted to send money to a government. We have to go through the chain of command here, which is go through the federal government to do that. Take a civics class. America is a Zionist country. It ain't no republic. Learn about how politics runs in America, because you look stupid, Muslims. You sound stupid. Starbucks is a franchise. The owner of the Starbucks don't have the power to send no money nowhere. And the company itself ain't got that authority either. You got to go through a lot of rigmarole through the federal government to send to another government outside of this country. We got laws, embargo laws, all kind of stuff. I'm a paralegal. Get a clue, American Muslims. Okay? But instead you get angry and go tearing up people's stores, tearing up Nike stores, tearing up Queen Latifah. What did Queen Latifah say? The cover girl. She said, what the heck I got to do with Israel? She said, I'm a black woman. What do I care? You think I support Israel? She said, and my name should say it all. My name is Latifah. She said, my father was a Muslim. Get out of here. We need to get it together, people. It takes patience to control your emotions. It takes patience to not transgress the limits of Allah. Listen to what Al-Hasan al-Basri, one of the Tabi'een, said. He said, no slave of Allah has struck a more effective blow than wisdom and patience when you're angry, and patience when you're faced with hardship. Subhanallah. This is because the hardest thing to do is to maintain your dignity when something has hurt you. That's hard. We're human. That's hard for all of us. It's hard for any human being to maintain his or her dignity if something has hurt you. That's something that we Muslims need to work on. Remember the hadith that I went over with you yesterday. The source, Sahih Muslim. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said one of the reasons why the Christians will always have the upper hand over us is they're able to maintain their dignity better than us when they're faced with hardships. When we're faced with a hardship, we get emotional and we transgress the limits. The Christians are better at maintaining their emotions than we are. That's why they're the superpower. That's why they'll always be the majority over us. Okay? So, again, two types of patience that we need to work on. If you want to change what's happening in the world today, you got to make that change within yourself. And the number one change you need to make is learn more patience. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam once asked the companions, he said, how would you define a childless person? They said, oh, Prophet of Allah, the childless person is the person that never had a baby. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, nope, that's not correct. He said the childless person is the one who's never offered any of their children to struggle in the way of Allah. Subhanallah. This is a powerful hadith. Would any of you do what the companions did when Allah sent down the command to fight for the battle of Badr? The Ansar, when Allah sent down those verses saying, go forth in his way, that war comes from him. And to show how much you believe in him, the Ansar offered up their sons, their young sons, 7, 8, 9, 10-year-olds were on that battlefield, collecting rocks, throwing rocks, helping. How many of us would do that? We can't stand to know that a child, was killed in Gaza. So I know you ain't going to offer up your children to go fight in no battle. Subhanallah. Also, the Prophet asked, who do you consider to be the most strong? They said the person that can't be defeated physically is the most strong. The Prophet said, no, the one who is the most strong is the one that can control his emotions, control his anger when put to a test by Allah. So here we can see that Allah praises those of us who have courage and who practice patience when we're faced with a hardship. That's why Allah says, and the interpretation of the meaning, and give good news to those who are patient. Those who, when they are faced with a calamity, they say, verily from Allah have we came, and unto Allah we shall return. That's the inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi rajiun. Okay? So, to not show anger is a sign of courage, and to show it is a sign that you lack it. Remember, Allah says in the interpretation, the meaning, good deeds and bad deeds are not the same. Drive away the bad with that which is better. And the one with whom there was enmity will become a close friend to you if you can do that. And none will be able to achieve this unless you are one who has patience. Subhanallah. We Muslims today need to work on it because we've transgressed the limits of Allah in a horrific way since the war spread it to Gaza. The war didn't begin October 7th. I keep telling y'all that. This war against Islam began back during the Bush regime. The Bush regime. It's been happening. It's just that it's escalated. And since it's escalated to the point it is now, I don't see the patience. Listen to what Allah says in the interpretation of the meaning. If we give man a taste of mercy and then take it away from him, he becomes despondent and ungrateful. And if we give him a good life after adversity, then he says the evil has left me, and he becomes joyous and haughty. What is Allah saying here? He's saying that a lot of people only turn to Allah when times are bad. But when times are good, we forget about Allah. How many of you fall in that category? You never made a salat until the war hit Gaza. Now you making prayers. And then if Allah were to take the war away from Gaza, you'll go back to being the crooked person that you were. That's how man is. That's the nature of the human being. Okay? Finally, we can see that enjoining good and forbidding evil is not an easy task, even though it's a responsibility. It's an obligation and responsibility upon all of us as Muslims. It's not easy to do. And not every Muslim qualifies to even do it, because very few of us have courage. Very few of us can control our emotions. Very few of us are willing to take that stand as the only one and be ridiculed for being the only one. So if you don't have the courage and if you don't have the patience, you'll fail at this. Your enjoining of good will become bad, and your forbidding of evil will be bad too. So I'm going to stop right here. Subhanallah.